Hello, and welcome to another interview with an amazing author from the other side of divorce. It's my pleasure to introduce Gina Phillips. She is a certified divorce financial analyst, and Gina and I have done a couple of things together. Her story is phenomenal, and so are the services she offers to women who are going through divorce. So, Gina, welcome. It's so great to see you here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, it's always so fun to talk to you. I always learn a ton, and I know that you've got some information to share with our listeners today. So I'm going to hop off the screen and I am going to let you take it away.
Thank you. So, one of the things I mentioned in my chapter was the process of finding your tribe. And what do I mean by finding your tribe? Well, for me at first, it was finding the right professionals to help me in the whole divorce process, from the lawyer to my mental health professional to all different people along the way, divorce coaches. Um, I personally didn't even know what a CDFA was, but I kind of acted as my own CDFA because I have an accounting degree and kind of did my own research regarding my numbers and finding out what was best for my situation. You want to make sure you really talk to these professionals. You'll get some of your friends to recommend them, but it's important to go with your own instincts and really listen how they respond to the questions you're asking, because you want somebody that's in line with your values and your vision of how you want to go through the divorce process. I know this process is very difficult, but you have a vision of how you want to get to the other side. So you really want to align with the professionals that make you feel confident and good and help you transition into the next phase of your life. Um, you, I found along the way when I was going through this process that there were a bunch of other women that were experiencing the same thing as I did. And they weren't as, you know, they didn't maybe understand their numbers as well as I do. And it wasn't that they didn't understand numbers in general, but they just wanted to move forward. And I was helping those people. So I was realizing that by helping others that weren't maybe as strong in one area of their lives, that it was making me feel good. And that helped me find my purpose and my vision of helping others in the whole divorce realm. As a CDFA, I really want people to feel confident in their finances going forward and aligning in their life. Um, you want to make sure that you're listening to that gut feeling inside, because that's sometimes hard, especially when you've been in a relationship for a long period of time. Um, you want to make sure that the people that are around you align with not just your vision and your value, but what is your purpose? And maybe that changes along the way. Uh, you might have a period of time where you're just trying to get through the whole situation or circumstance that you're in, but you really need to evaluate and look at what's important to you and the people that are part of your life. They always say who you surround yourself with and influences how you look at the world. And you want people that will make you gravitate towards bringing up yourself to transition you into the person that you are becoming after this period in your life. All these are lessons that you're learning to make sure that you're aligning with the people that you need to align with. Um, Stop. It's how you feel when you're with these individuals that'll tell you if you're on the right track and aligning with your purpose and values. You want to make sure that you're not feeling anxious or overwhelmed. You want to make sure that you're feeling true to yourself and moving forward to be the transformation that you want to be, the purpose that you want to get from going through this difficult period in your life. I've realized over the years that I was very blessed when I went through my transition 16 years ago. I met a group of wonderful people that were various ages, and we were all either divorced or going through the process, and that really helped me. It was like a socialization for me and align with those people. So one of the things we loved to do was go listen to live music. And that just brought joy into my life. And listening to live music and dancing, for some other people, it might be scrapbooking or being alone or being in a group of people or knitting or other activities. Find what makes you happy. Nobody can tell you what makes you happy, and be around the people that bring out that joyful feeling in your life. You want to make sure that you're aligning with not just the right people, but what is best for your purpose and what makes you feel good inside. And sometimes people come in your life for just a season. I found that when I was going through the process, some of the people that I was going out and doing things with were good for me at that time. But you know, then I was growing and moving on. And sometimes you need to recognize that it's important when you do those things that it's okay. It's okay to still have those friends in your outer circle, but the people in your inner circle and your inner tribe will really help you transform and get to the other side. So I think the biggest thing is to make sure when you're bringing anyone in your life or your tribe is that you really listen and feel what you're feeling and making sure that they align with your vision and value. And I hope this helps you to realize that it's a process and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It may take you a while to find your vision or your purpose or that activity that brings joy into your life, but you can do it.
Gina, I love that message. And I think what you said is something that we all need to think about. That idea of bringing a group of people to support you. And, I talk a lot about the professionals that you need to have with, a certified divorce financial analyst being one of the key people. I think even before an attorney, you need to know your number so you can go to your attorney and talk knowledgeably with them about it. But this whole idea of creating a tribe, how did you, was that something that just happened for you, or is that something you intentionally went out to seek when you were going through your divorce?
Well, I remember, and it's funny because it's approaching the Super Bowl now. I remember sitting in my house alone. My ex-husband always went to a convention around the Super Bowl. And I remember sitting in my house alone with my son, and we're watching. He goes, "This is boring, just the two of us." And he goes, "We need to have a Super Bowl party." I go, "Who am I going to invite?" Because I really kind of was that mom, or the wife, supporting my husband in his career and supporting my son. I transitioned to being a stay-at-home mom when my son was like 4. So I really had a very limited, besides my family, to really go out and just even talk to or let loose with or understood what I was doing. And I remember sitting there going, what am I going to do? So when I did start meeting these people, and just gravitating I met somebody through my son. I mean, I met 2 of my good friends. One of them were the baseball team was playing and it was raining, and she looked at me, I looked at her, and I went into her car, and I just, it's one of those things where you just feel like you have to get it out. And I got it out, and she looked at me, she goes, "I'm going through the same thing." And then we had another friend. So we all had boys the same age. So we were gravitated to finding that tribe because we were going through similar circumstances. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so fast forward a couple of years, I meet these group of people and they're like, "Oh, we really want to get together for the Super Bowl." But nobody, and I had the house. I had a nice house that I could do it. So until the pandemic, I had a Super Bowl party for 10 years straight in a row.
Wow.
I and I will tell you, I am now known in the group of my friends as Super Bowl Gina because there's other Ginas. And except for 2 years during the pandemic when it was at the height and we really couldn't gather and things like that. And that brings me joy. Like it goes back to what my son said to me about like bringing other people in to make it fun and exciting, that you can always find your tribe.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, so what I'm hearing is it was both sort of a coincidental thing, but it was also really intentional that recognize that you wanted to do certain things like have your Super Bowl party, and then you created the space and the opportunity to do that. And I think that's so important because that's one thing I think a lot of women in particular going through divorce is, when we're married, we're focused on our families first, right? I think, and especially if you're not working, or if you don't have children, you can get pretty isolated pretty quickly. And I know as I get older, being a single woman, it is harder to find, friends, I'm going to use that in quotes, or people in your community, because most people are married, or most people do things with their own families on special events. So I think the older you get when you're going through a divorce, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but the harder it becomes to maybe find that tribe of people.
Yeah. Well, and I have a great tribe, but I do different things with those tribes. So I have one friend that we love. We'll go to yoga. We'll go for walks together. I have another friend that she's like, I could call her at any minute and talk to her and just get my feelings out. We still do things that are fun together, like go dancing and stuff. And then I have other friends that I've met during the course of my business networking. Like I've realized, and that's what everybody has to realize, there are people that draw like a lot of energy from being around people, and that's who I am. But there's some people that just want that one-on-one. And I found that I always am opening myself to really getting to know someone to see if they align with my vision and value. And I think that's the important thing. They might not be doing everything with you, but they might be just there to do the walk in the park or go to a museum. Or I have theater tickets. I've had them with my sister, who's part of my tribe, even though she's a family member. But those are things that you don't have to limit yourself to one or two people. And I think like you said, as you get older, or if you go through this, if you've been married in the circle of friends, and you lose, obviously, not that you lose friends, but you're transforming and you're growing.
Right.
And as you do that, your friends will grow with you if they're your true friends.
Right. And sometimes, and I know that, so first of all, I love that because I do believe that getting out and doing things in your community is the best way to meet people in your community. You can't sit in your house and say, I don't know anybody in my community. That's on you if that's what you're doing. So not to blame anybody, but just doing something, going for a walk in the park and saying hi to people. Going to a local coffee shop and having a coffee. You don't have to go out. If you go to church, maybe try a different church. Or, I'm a yoga fan myself. And when I'm traveling, I always try to go to a local yoga studio. I'm only going to be in town for a couple of days. I'm not necessarily going to interact outside of the yoga studio with any of those women that I meet, but it's nice to just go and say hi and have a conversation, even if it's only a one-time interaction with somebody.
Right, because you never know who you
Exactly.
connect with. And that's the thing. It might even be, like it might even be volunteering in your community. It
I was
might
going to
be
say,
that,
yeah,
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 it might be that, okay, maybe I'm too old to have a dog, but I love walking and I love dogs. So maybe you go to your local animal shelter or another and walk a dog, and it might be something as simple as that. I think that sometimes we're so wrapped up in our day-to-day life that
right.
we don't take care of ourselves and know with self-care how important it is that when you feel good, you can help others better, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. I mean, I don't know if the words are coming out
No,
right,
no, no,
but,
no.
but, but you have to take care of yourself.
Right.
No one can tell you what makes you happy. I have friends that like to go out and sit at the center of a bar and have a drink. And then I have friends that will only go if there's music and they want to dance. And I like doing both of those things, and there's nothing wrong with it, but know what one you enjoy more with. And I'm
Right.
not, and it might just be as simple as going out to a dinner and socializing or traveling with someone new. I mean, one of the things that I've done in the recent years is I have a good friend who's a travel agent, and we've organized these trips. We went to Italy 2 years ago with just women. That was fabulous. And then I went on a trip with my son, and two of the girls that went to Italy came with us, and it was fabulous. And now we're planning a trip to Ireland with men and women. So it do what you enjoy, and you can still meet people along the way. And some of those people are unfortunately either divorced or single because of widow, or and some are in partnerships. Some are just like going with their girlfriends or their husbands. But I think that when you open up your heart and your mind to different opportunities, you'll see what you enjoy as a person.
Yeah, and I love that idea of finding that tribe that truly aligns with you and that is comfortable with that you don't have to be somebody different, because I think so many um women and men are fall into that category of people pleasers where they don't want to go to the bar. They would much rather go to the museum, but they feel obligated to go wherever their friends are going because they don't feel comfortable saying, hey, I'd really like to go to the museum instead of going out to the bar and eat. Like, I'm not judging, right? I go
Right,
to the bar every now and then and have a drink
right,
myself.
right.
So it doesn't matter what you do as long as it's something that you're comfortable with, that you, like you said, that you enjoy, and that helps you feel, gives you that time of just feeling really good in your life. And you should do something like that for yourself all the time, whatever, whether
Whatever it is.
yeah, yeah. It's really funny because because I do find sometimes as a single person, the evenings sometimes are a little bit long. And so I kind of work until a certain time and then I eat my dinner and then got into the habit of reading a book for a while and then kind of watching an hour of TV and heading off to bed. I thought, you know what, I'm going to shake it up. So I ordered a crochet kit to make a shawl, which I've never done before. So that's my thing now. And I have found that I've got a couple of friends that crochet. So I get on the phone with them and I'm like, what does this mean? And so we've kind of created this other way that we interact because we now have this shared hobby that we're doing. So yeah, there's all these different things that you can do.
Well, and even with me, with the type of business I have, I love networking. Like I love that, they have dinner meetings and I go to topics that interest me. And a lot of times, a lot of these networking groups will allow you to go to one or two to see if they are your tribe, if that
Right.
makes sense. So
Yes.
I've done that a lot. Go on, maybe pay a couple extra dollars, go as a guest, and you can feel the energy. Like I just joined a networking that there are a bunch of different professionals, but they give back to the community. They give to Crisis Center for, women and children. So every time they have a fundraiser, like at their dinner meetings, basket raffle or whatever, the proceeds go there. So that's kind of aligning with me with a networking, meeting new people, and giving back to the community. It's like it's like a
Yeah.
threefer, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I mean, I think that's important, try those things out. Maybe that's important. There's meetup groups, there's meetup groups in your community where they have, that align with what's in, like, your age bracket or things along those
Yeah.
lines. Like you
Yeah.
said, the church. I just started going to a new church, and they had it's a fundraiser committee. I love both of those things. And I did that on my own. Like, just see what you like and if it feels good for you.
Right, right. So, Gina, before we get off the this interview, because I think this is such an important part of going through the divorce, is not finding yourself getting isolated. But I do want to talk a little bit about specifically about the services that you offer women going through divorce, because this whole financial picture, when you don't understand, when you're in fear about what your financials are, when you don't know them, and let's face it, we know there's this thing called financial abuse now, where a partner, usually the moneyed partner or the income earning partner, withholds financial information or doesn't allow the other person to have access to the accounts or the credit cards or the statements. So you really are blind, literally, with regards to what's going on financially. But even in situations where the income, where that's not going on and there's a clear picture of what the finances are, one of the biggest things that drives conflict in a divorce is fear. And fear about finances is a huge issue for both men and women. So can you talk a little bit about what a certified divorce financial analyst does, and how you help people get clear on their financial future when they're looking or they're considering divorce?
Right. So I help people in all stages of I like to call it marital transition process, because I can help them when they're in the beginning stage. Some people don't know what an investment statement looks like or the difference between different retirement assets. So I can help them, give them a list of documents together to help them wrap their head around it. I think that it's important that you educate yourself and truly understand what finances you have, and that's what I do. I can hold your hand from the beginning of it to help you gather the documents, to kind of look at your cash flow to see what you're going to need for your future. Can you afford to stay in the home you're in, or do you need to sell it? And then how can you plot it out? So I'll help you in all those phases. Once the lawyers or the mediators get your settlement agreement in play, I kind of look at it in a broad perspective to make sure it's including everything. I just was hired recently by a client who has a special needs child. And I said, and been in the divorce process for years. And I said, well, have they specifically outlined your child's special needs and how that's going to be addressed and what's going to happen for the future? And he says it's not mentioned. And I'm like, okay, no, we need to kind of reel it in to focus on what's the best scenario for you. That's what I do. I can't make a generalized statement. Everybody's finances are different, and I've referred people to HUD housing, because they can't financially afford it. And there's no shame in that. That's what it's there for.
Right.
So I think that I kind of give everybody that information so that they can make an informed decision. I
Yes.
want I want to make sure that people really truly know what the money is coming in and what's going out. And then we can work with it and see what's the best way. I mean, I have people that are bankruptcy attorneys that are professionals I'm aligned with. Sometimes you don't want to do that, but sometimes you have to. And
Right.
there's no shame in really taking a hard look at it. And a lot of times, like you said, husbands and wives have different philosophies regarding money. And I actually have, and she was on your podcast recently, Chris, that talking about your money mindset and coaching and things like that. So I think that it's important that you hire someone like me, wherever you are in the divorce process, to give you that extra education to make sure that you really are making an informed decision about your finances.
Yes, thank you. And I think one of the things that I would like to do is I would like to say, as a divorce coach, the first thing when I have clients that say, I'm a little concerned about the money, the first professional I recommend they see is a certified divorce financial analyst, not an attorney. Now, because an attorney does not necessarily understand unless they are, and some attorneys are also CPAs or CDFAs. They're not common, and you're typically going to pay I'm just going to be honest about this. You're going to pay more for an attorney that has different certifications, and because they've spent hours and years getting this training. So of course, there's going to be some difference in financial issues or costs to the divorce hiring those professionals. But having somebody different, a new set of eyes, a fresh set of eyes on your finances, and doing that before you walk into your attorney's office does give you some advantages, because most of the time the attorneys are going to look at what are the big assets, and then they're going to start talking about how do we divide this. 50-50 does not mean you get half the house. You may get none of the house, but all of the retirement. And there can be a whole lot of advantages to either one of those options. So before you go into an attorney who starts saying, we need to split the house, one of you has to buy the other person out, or we have to sell it and split the equity, having information from somebody like Gina that you can say, you know what, I don't even want the house, because either you can't afford it, you won't qualify for a mortgage, whatever the issue may be. And you can say to the attorney, I don't want the house. I just like to take, 75% of the retirement or whatever that is.
Right.
You can end the conflict. You can get a fast settlement if the other person wants the house and isn't so worried about the retirement. There's so many potential benefits to knowing your numbers before you start working with the legal process.
Right. And I'm very honest with someone, especially when you say like, if they can afford the house. That's huge right now, because the housing market is so different from when I went through my divorce 16 years ago. The value of my house dropped a lot, where now the values of the houses, like maybe they bought it a few years ago, or maybe they refinanced at 3% and the interest rate is 6%. That's a huge difference if it's a big house. And I think that a lot of people, I always ask somebody, well, why do you want to stay in the house? Is it that your child has one more year of high school? Well, maybe you can sell it after, or is it that there's equity, or, are you sure this is your priority? And I think that's a lot of times that's what people have to look at, is what is their priority in their transitional phase of their lives?
Right.
And it might be a 5-year plan. It might be, let's keep the house now, like I did, and then sell and live in a neighborhood that's walkable because that's what I wanted. So it might be a transitional period of time. What is your kind of goals to get through the process, 5 years, and maybe eventually when you retire down the line?
Yeah. And we always talk about the house, but there's other things to consider. Like if you sell as a couple, you're going to take half as much of a capital gains hit if you sell as an individual. And is the market going to have that $500,000 difference if you've got, a high asset house? So there's so many things to consider. And just having the ability to run the scenarios, look at the numbers. And a certified divorce financial analyst, just like a divorce coach, doesn't tell you what to do. They just present you with the information and you pick what works for you. So, Gina.
I do what if scenarios too.
Yeah.
So what if we do this and what if we do that? So I think that's it. You have to just be open-minded.
Yeah. And it's all about education and figuring out what you want to do. And that's why I think that certified divorce financial analysts, if you've got any kind of assets, really is an important consideration. So, and Gina, I love your message in the book, The Other Side of Divorce. I love your message about finding your tribe, supporting yourself, and seeing that as a part of caring for yourself throughout the divorce and into the future. So I absolutely love this. And thank you so much for being an author. And thank you for sharing this information.
Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity.